Hello guys and welcome back to yet another video. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Specter. This is a second specialization for the assassin base class. So to quickly describe the Specter has a more assassin gameplay unlike the Mirage. He has the stealth, he is fully melee as well. Some of his skills have really nice range. However, you can use it to catch people in PvP, and you can use it to get some damage if the boss is a little bit further away from you and you can't get really close to him. But the fundamental part about him is he is melee, and you're going to be spending most of your time in melee combat. That may be a pro or a con for some. That will be a very personal preference for me. I don't really mind it as long as it's a good class. I don't mind if it's melee or ranged. I would prefer ranged, but yeah, it is what it is. One other massive pro about the Specter is he has one of the best mobility kind of a buff, like a steroid, and it is insane. Like, you can upkeep this buff 100% of the time. You can always have this movement speed active. The invisibility has like a couple stacks here, but the movement speed is always there active, especially when you start gearing up your Specter. So that's a huge pro there. Another massive pro, and I may catch some flack for this if it doesn't actually work out there. I think it's gonna work out. Is this is probably one of the best free-to-play classes you can build, and the reason is he doesn't necessarily need cooldown reduction because of the way his mechanics work. So I will be explaining this in a little bit, but he kind of reduces all of his cooldowns passively, and you don't really use so many skills to a point where you're looking to reduce their cooldown that aggressively, unlike other classes. So yeah, this might be one of the cheapest classes to build when it comes to that regard, because having to focus so much on CDR kind of forces you to start thinking about paying to win to get the Mystic Carpet. So the Mystic Carpet on Specter isn't such a big deal if you do not have the cut. But I will explain that in more detail when we get to that section, and what I'm like talking about when we get there. And of course, like every other class in the game, it does have a little bit of its cons here and there. One of its cons is some of these skills do have like a long animation time, and if you try and cancel this, you do lose a lot of damage if you do try and cancel them. For example, you can try and cancel this, but you don't get the last explosion. So to get the whole damage of the entire skill, you have to let the entire skill play out. But yeah, it is. I would say it's more of a skill expression over there. It is not really bad thing, because even if it locks you, you can't cancel out of most of those animation locks. But yeah, it is a little bit of a con there. And then another con, it's going to, let me summon Queen over here. So one thing a lot of people really look for is a class that can do aero combat very comfortably. And the way Specter works is his aero combat is really decent. However, when you start utilizing more of the other big hitting skills, it's like a two-part combo, where if you cast it a second time, it does land you to do like the explosion. The only way to kind of cancel out of this would be to utilize another basic attack skill. But when we get to that section, I will tell you what I'm talking about. So his aero skill is decent, but will require a little bit of skill expression to ensure you actually manage your entire rotation in the air. You cannot just do it like every class where you just like spam your skills and you just stay in the air. For this one, you have to do a little bit of cancels, you have to do a little bit of dashes to actually ensure you do not land, because most of the skills will land you and dash you to where you placed it. So that is that. I don't think it's more of a con. It is a little bit of a con for some people, but it just increases the skill ceiling of the class. But the class is pretty good. One little pro that I forgot is unlike these other big classes like Magiblade, which is very class resource dependent, and also Mirage, Specter has something similar. However, his mechanic is not very punishing like the other classes. It's very easy to get back the cooldowns and like start the rotation all over again. So it is not that bad. So that's actually a pretty good thing. So if you fail your combo, it's not the end of the world. It's a skill expression again. So this class is, the better you are the class, the better you're going to perform. but it's a little bit easier to pilot the Specter. So let's quickly go through his skills one by one. We're going to start with the early game skills. So the level 1 to level 10 skills, I have them all set up in my bar like this. They don't really have so much going for them, so we're going to go really quickly. I'm just going to glaze over the passives over here. So this is your normal upward slash passive with the basic attack and stuff. And then you do have your crit damage buff here, which is pretty good. You get like a 9.6 crit damage if you max it out. And then you do have your media armor over here, which is pretty good, which means Specter is a little bit more on the tankier side when this medium armor or light armor starts taking effect much later on down the line. So let us start with like the first skill here, the air cut skill. So these are like level 1 skills, very underwhelming, nothing major. So just a quick dagger thrust like that, nothing major, it's simple as that. And then you have the second skill here, so it's just a couple of dagger throws. So boom, nothing really interesting so much about that skill. The only thing about skill is that it applies bleed if you are ever going to need that debuff at whatever situation. So you have a bleed here, really nice duration. It's 100% uptime for the bleed as well, so if that matters. I don't think it does, but yeah, you have bleed there on the level 1 skill there. Then the next one here is just a quick gap closer. So boom, that is all. Nothing really major about that. Has no passive or anything. Just a quick dash. That is let me show you where it is on the tree. So is this falling light. The passive just increases the distance on how far you can cast it. It doesn't go that far, but this is the max distance you can do. So there, as is with the passive. Without the passive, it's even shorter. And then for the next one, your Q here, 4 for most people. So boom, just a quick dash. So this skill has a passive at level 10. So at level 10, you'll say after Solo's return hits an enemy, which is this skill, Solo's return. The next basic attack will start from the 5th phase. Now, to explain that, let me jump a little bit to the basic attack. So the basic attack has a 5 chain effect. So boom, 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 and then the last one is like a stab, right? So tan, 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 tan. The last hit is a stun. So what they're saying is for this skill, when you do that skill like that, the next basic attack will skip all the 4 and it will do the last hit, right? That's all it means. So boom, the next basic attack will be the dash. This basic attack will also be buffed by around 300%. It's actually a really huge buff on that basic attack. 300% though. However, there are better skills to use, but yeah, it is a good thing to have as well. However, it's maybe a PvP skill, not really a PvE skill at all. So for the other two, you have like this, throw in some discs, and then they go back to you, or reset the cooldown, or you can basic attack and they go to the enemy and doing some kind of decent damage for early game. But yeah, that is all to it. These discs do damage where they are like spinning, but the damage is very low. Oops, sorry. The damage is very low. See, that doesn't do that much damage. Placing it is also very hard. I mean, you can put it there and then just attack to bring them to the enemy. The damage isn't that major, however. And then you do have the last skill at level 10, which is just a dash and some spinny thingies. Boom, 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 boom. Nothing major. And that's about it for level 1 to level 10 skills. So we are done for the level 1 to level 10 skills. You do have your passive here for the resonance energy as well. Like every class has that. So we're going to reset everything here, and then I'm going to go to the level 15 one. This is where I'm going to ramble a little bit. You guys know I like to ramble when it comes to class mechanics. So let's talk about the class mechanics. So the moment you hit level 15, you will, let me level these two up. Let me level these two up and set them in my bar. So at level 15, you're going to unlock your Specter's gauge. So this is the blue gauge over here. This gauge allows you to get stacks, so you can use your basic attacks to get stacks. This one you get this stacks all the way to level 7. So 5, 6, you have to do the entire chain of attacks to get the stack. See, then you have 7 stacks. When you have 7 stacks, you wanna consume the stacks using this skill here. Let me show you guys, plus the name, the Moonscar skill over here. Moonscar will be consuming your stacks. Stacks are called heart stacks, mad heart stacks. So depending on how many stacks you have will determine what kind of a monster you're gonna cast. So for the purpose of our demonstration, let's reset everything. So when you're at 0 stacks and then we have monster at 2, when you're at 0 stacks and you cast monster, it's gonna look like this. Just a couple of slashes, and it will do basic damage around 2000% in terms of its rating. Let me quickly show you that. So the first phase will only do around 700%, 400%. Phase 2 will deal even almost more, like double, almost double the damage, and phase 2 will require you to have 2 stacks, right? 2 stacks of this. So boom, 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 boom. At 2 stacks, you get the next phase of it, which will change a little bit of even how it casts. So this is how the second phase looks with another ending. You see how the damage is increasing a little bit. And then you have the phase 3 of the same skill. So this is when you get even higher stacks. So at 7 stacks, you're gonna be able to cast Moonscar 3, which is the last phase. So at the 7 stacks, let's quickly stack that. At 7 stacks, this is how it's gonna look. This is the big one, and that is really good. So the rule of thumb is this: you don't want to use your Moonscar unless you have 7 stacks. I'll be showing you how to quickly stack that. But yeah, that is the entire class mechanic when it comes to the stack. It is very simple. You want to get stacks, and then there's only one skill to utilize to consume those stacks. That skill does have a cooldown, so in the end it kind of makes it a little bit easier to play Specter, because you're only using one skill to consume the stacks, and that skill has a little bit of a cooldown. There's a way to reduce the cooldown. I'll show you that in a little bit, but you have at least time to, like, think about your life a little bit and also play around the boss and stuff like that. That is the class gauge over here, right? And I think we have talked about the Moonscar and how the Moonscar works when it comes to consuming these stacks. And then now let's talk about the Shadow Strike. Well, Shadow Strike is a major part about this mechanic. So these level 15 skills all come with like a whole new class gameplay style. So when it comes to Shadow Strike has no cooldown. What Shadow Strike does, I have it at level 1. You cannot use it when you have 0 stacks, so you'll have to at least get 1 stack to be able to cast Shadow Strike. It's pretty easy to do that with other skills. I'll show you in a little bit. But once you get 1 stack of Shadow Strike, this skill has no cooldown, right? This skill has no cooldown. However, it is gonna spend 1 stack to cast it. It is really slow to get the stacks using basic attacks. You see, boom, still stacking, 5, 6, and then 7. That took really long, right? However, using your Shadow Strike, which has no cooldown, remember, it only uses 1 stack. Using your Shadow Strike, let's say you have 1 stack. So when you use your Shadow Strike, you're gonna dash back using the Shadow Strike, and then the next 2 basic attacks will be only 2 hits and will give you extra stacks. So this is how it looks like. So Shadow Strike, and you're gonna dash, and then the next basic attack will look like this. So boom, boom, and that gives me 3 stacks. And then I'm gonna Shadow Strike again, which will spend 1 stack, right? And then I'm gonna basic attack, boom, boom, and then I'm gonna get 5 stacks. I'm gonna Shadow Strike again, which will spend 1, and then I'm gonna do the 2, and I'm at 7. You guys see how that is much quicker. So if I do it quickly, it will look something like this. Let me reset everything. Let me just get 1 stack for the purpose of demonstration, like this, so I can cast it, and then it will look like this. So boom, and I'm at 7. Once you're 7, you can do your Moonscar, and then again you go back to stacking, right? You go back to stacking. Now we are done with how to quickly stack. That is the best way to stack these ones, like extremely fast, and that is the entire purpose of Shadow Strike. It is a bread and butter skill. You're gonna be pressing that one a lot, so put it in a key that you're comfortable with, that's not gonna like break your hand, because you're gonna be pressing that button a lot. Now Shadow Strike has a second part to it. I didn't want to put it at the start, but now I'm gonna explain to you. It has a passive that you get at level 25. So the passive level 25 is insanely broken. So at level 25, you get the passive, and the passive states that each cast of Shadow Strike reduces the cooldown of Moonscar. and Monska is your spender skill over here. A really beautiful skill. That passive is insanely good. Now this is how it looks like. I want you to notice at the cooldown of these Monska. In fact, you know what? I'm going to increase my UI a little bit. I have it at minimum. I like small. You know what? I'm gonna max it out. Oh my word! RIP your eyes, guys. Okay, so look at the cooldown of Monska. So let's just spend it right now, just for the purpose of demonstration, to put it on cooldown. So boom. See how the cooldown is. Watch how it is jumping every time I am doing the 2 casts of Shadow Strike. So you see, and it's back of cooldown. Spend it, then Shadow Strike, Monska again, Shadow Strike, Monska, Shadow Strike. You see how the cooldown is like resetting all the time? That is every time you're using your Shadow Strike, you are resetting your cooldown on Monska. That's why I was saying a little bit earlier that cooldown reduction isn't that important on Specter, because he has inbuilt cooldown reduction mechanisms in his kit. And that passive alone is a little crazy. That passive is insane. Really beautiful passive. Make sure you're maxing out this skill. And yeah, it's a really beautiful skill. It does a lot of damage as well. It has its own damage on the 2 basic attacks here. Now, a second thing about Shadow Strike is, unlike a class like Bounty Hunter, on her Rain Down Fire, which just enhances her basic attacks. So this skill, although you are using your left click to do like basic attacks, it is not considered basic attack, and it is considered skill damage. So you don't want to be building any basic attack modifiers on the class, because it doesn't apply to your Shadow Strike, right? So this is considered skill damage, and it's not considered basic attack damage. I just thought I should mention that. So I think we have cleared out that class mechanic is not very complicated, very simple. Those 2 go really well together. These 3 with the passive here as well. So these 3 go very well together. Really beautiful synergy on the class. Makes the class actually a lot of fun to play. It's probably one of the main reasons I may consider Specter instead of Mirage, because to be honest, there's a lot of things going so well for Specter. Now let's go on to the other mid-game skills. So the level 20 skills all the way to level 45. These are like your mid-game skills. So let's quickly go through them, and then I'm gonna explain if there's anything interesting about any of this. We're gonna start with the first one, which is Willing Dance. It's just a quick skill. Quick skill. Not really decent damage. Right? It's a filler skill if you have nothing else to slot in. Just quick like that. And then let's go for your second one, which is the Hunter's Mark over here. Let me show you on the skill tree where it is. So you have your Hunter's Mark. A really good thing about this skill is a really fast way to get quick stacks at the start of a fight. So boom, 3 stacks. Does very nice damage as well. It does really good damage. It's a skill you want to always have in your bar and max it out. Really good skill. Another like really beautiful skill about this, it does have this animation lock to it, like a lot of casting and stuff. If you are feeling like a little bit threatened by a mechanic or anything, you can cancel it. And you're still gonna get all the 3 stacks. All you're doing, the only thing you're gonna be losing out is the remaining of the damage, which is actually a huge portion of the damage, almost 80% if you cancel out of the last explosion. So keep that in mind. But if you ever need to quickly get out of the way, you can dash, and it's gonna give you the 3 stacks even without doing like almost any damage. Just the first hit, and you can cancel out of it, and still gonna get your 3 stacks over there. But you're gonna notice you're not really gonna need to use these skills so much for stacks, right? Okay, and then we do have a passive here, but I'll explain that in a little bit. Let's talk about let's jump to Soul Execution first before I go to the level 35 one. So Soul Execution is your shadow thingy. Boom, some damage. Really cool skill. Does pretty good damage as well. Really good damage as well. Let's show you max it out. Very good damage. Looks super cool. You can cast it early to do the explosion, to make it like even faster, because you can double cast it. Boom, just like that. So if you look at the bottom of my my hotbar over here, when I cast a skill, I do get a little bit of a number. So this just means I can cast it a second time. So I can press it and then press it again, to do the last explosion. That's all it means. Don't be confused as to why it doesn't go on cooldown immediately. It is the exact same thing. So you can't let it do the explosion on its own. It actually doesn't matter. The damage is the exact same whether you explode it yourself or you let it explode on its own. So it's just up to you how you feel like you want to play it. If you want to be a little bit more cinematic, you do whatever you want with that skill. And when it comes to this passive that I skipped over here around the level 31, I don't know if it worked. It's probably bugged. So all they are saying is each phase of the combo skill grants 1 stack of Mad Hat. Now, the wording is probably not correct. We don't really know what that means. If the combo skill they are talking about is the one that you can press twice, for example, Soul Execution. If they are saying each phase of it grants 1 stack of Mad Hat, well, this skill does do that on its own. It's supposed to give you 2 stacks. So the first one and then the second one. Yeah, the first one and the second one. If I'm not wrong, this is what the passive is supposed to do once you have it activated. But even if I have it leveled up or not, I still get 2 stacks, right? I still get 2 stacks. Nothing really changes whether you have this leveled or not. So it's probably bugged or it's worded wrongly. I don't really know what that means. I don't want to pretend I do. So this one I'm just going to leave it with the big quotes there. I'm going to say I don't really know what it is. It is free to take it though. 0 points. So just take it and leave it there because there's no disadvantage to taking it. But to be honest, I really have no idea what it does. It also doesn't really work for your moon cutter over here or your moon scar because I thought it meant these phases over here, but it still doesn't really make a difference. This one just gives you one stack, doesn't give you extra one. That is that. So I'm gonna leave it this one there. We're gonna test it out when it comes to official. If there's any big changes, I'll probably make a follow-up video about it. So let's go to Concealing Mist, and this one is a really beautiful skill. This is a really beautiful skill. I'm gonna put it on my 1 bar over there. I'll also combine it with its own passive. It has a passive at level 40. So every time you are in the stealth prep mode, you're gonna continuously get the Mad Hat stacks. I will explain what this stealth thing is. So Concealing Mist has a lot of paragraphs here. But the gist of the idea is this: once you cast the skill, you're gonna enter in a stealth ready state, and you're gonna get 30% movement speed. So every time you dodge or you do a shadow strike, you're gonna become invisible for around 5 seconds or so, and then you can do like a small stealth attack, which does like this really beautiful damage over here. So to easily explain it to you, it's better to just show you. So I have it on number 1 here, Concealed Mist. So once you press it, you are in now stealth prep state. You're gonna have the buff on your here. So stealth prep, you're gonna be getting your movement speed. This 10% damage bonus over here, you're not gonna have it unless you do have the accessory side effect. I'm gonna show you guys that when we talk about the gearing. But yeah, you see the stealth prep, you do have the buff there. Really long buff, almost 100% uptime. And with the cooldown reduction and stuff, you are going to notice how it's 100% uptime on this buff. So once you have stealth prep, anytime you dodge, so just a simple shift or whatever is in the PlayStation, so boom, you're gonna get into stealth mode and you're just zooming around with the movement speed and you look like really cool. Now this will trigger up to 3 times for each preparation state. So 3, that's the last one, and then once it's done, you have to cast it again, and then you're back to it again. So you only have 3 chances of doing your stealth attack, right? Once you are in the stealth, once you enter stealth, the next skill that you do is gonna do bonus damage, right? The next skill that you do, so you can do Concealing Mist, and then you stealth, and then you do any skill you want, and that skill will do bonus damage. So you can do this to up to 3 skills. So that one, dash away, and then do that one. Those 3 skills will do bonus damage, but that's not really how you want to be using your stealth. I'll explain that in a little bit when you talk about the rotations and stuff. But yeah, that's all about the skill. The skill has a passive. The skill also has a passive whereby, let me just show you the wording. You get more stacks. So during stealth prep, continuously gain Mad Hat. So assuming you have 0 stacks, and then you start with this skill, this is the reason why I have it at number 1 on my end hotbar, is you're gonna get an instant 1 cast and you start zooming at the start of the fight. You have the 30% movement speed permanently, even if you're not in stealth as well. The movement speed is there. It's just that I'm like dashing, that's why it looks a little bit faster, but the 30% movement speed is permanent as long as you have you're using that thing off cooldown, because there's 100% uptime on it. And remember, I have very low cooldown on the class. Let me show you my cooldown rate. 97. This is very low. A lot of people are like at 200 or so. So you can imagine how easy it is to upkeep that buff. So yeah, that's another major part about the class. I'm gonna explain how really important this skill is a little bit later on when we start talking about the rotation of the class. And then at level 45, we're gonna get a new passive here, which increases the Specter's damage for every stack consumed. That stacks up to 7 times. This is a really beautiful buff. You're going to be using your Moonscar skill. So let's put it back on the bar over here. And then every time you consume your stacks, so boom, you'll notice you're gonna be getting your No Mercy buff over here. Really beautiful buff. Doesn't really last long, so you want to be refreshing this as much as possible. So you want to be doing like your Shadow Strike to reset the cooldown of Moonscar and spend your Moonscar on the stacks to make sure you have this buff as long as you possibly can. It is a very tight window, so there will be a little bit of downtime here and there, but it is a pretty beautiful buff. And then I did forget about the level 1 finisher. I'm sorry about that, but this is how the level 1 finisher looks like. Just a couple of dashes, decent damage. You can always use this when you need a low cooldown finisher. That's how it looks. Beautiful skill. Okay, so let's look at the level 45 finisher. The level 45 finisher is a very anime-like finisher. It's a very anime-like. Very anime-like. There's a lot of damage as well. And it is super fast to cast. Super fast to cast. I love such really good buff damage as well, like a really quick instance of damage. Yeah, really beautiful skill. Using this level 45 finisher should give you like instant 7 stacks. You can 7 stacks into Moonscar. It's an instant one. So now every time you're using this, you're gonna get 7 stacks, so you can immediately go into your Moonscar for massive damage. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the endgame skills. And the endgame skills are only 2 of them. So the level 51 and the level 51 one. These are both combo skills. So this is how the level 51 looks. Just throw a bit of that. It does some explosion, and the last explosion at the end. You don't have to recast it, right? Recasting it teleports you to the location of where you have set up your skill. So there, if you recast it, it's gonna teleport you there. So you can use that for PvP and stuff like that, because it takes you wherever you have set up. So there, it takes you there. You don't have to recast it for the entire damage. You can just let it do the explosion on itself. It is the exact same thing, right? This is also where that passive we were talking about earlier about the combo skill kind of applies to this one a little bit, because if you recast it, you do get the 2nd stack. If you let it explode on its own, you don't get the 2nd stack. You see, that is that thing there. But to be honest, I'm gonna explain it to you, but you don't really need the stacks from these ones at all. And then let's look at the level 55 one. Level 55 one is a really good boom, and then a dash, long cast time. You don't really want to cancel this as well, because it does really good damage. And if you try and cancel it, because you can cancel it with a dash, you lose the entire damage, and the entire damage is like on the last explosion. So keep that in mind. I'm gonna tell you how to cancel it, but you really don't want to do it. And it looks like it's pretty fast, and it looks really fun. So keep that in mind. Gives you 2 stacks as well. But this one, you don't need to recast it at all. You just press it and then just wait for the cast and everything. Gonna give you 2 stacks, but again, it doesn't really matter. So there is that. And then let's go to the level 60 awakening. This one you have to spend a little bit time on, because it's really insane. It's really insane. And in order to showcase it correctly, I am going to put in a little bit more skills over here. Let's put as well our Moonscar. Where's our Moonscar? Let's put our Moonscar on 2. Let's put that on here. Now, the level 60 awakening is insane. So what this skill does, it gives you 2 clones, right? These clones will last for 10 seconds. You're gonna see the timer on how the bar is. See how it's draining down, and when it drains down, they do a little bit of burst. So it's a 10-second fill time for this awakening. In these 10 seconds, you wanna do every possible skill you can do. The reason for this is these clones will mimic all the skills that you do, not basic attacks but skills. It will mimic your Shadow Strike. Let me put the Shadow Strike in. They will mimic Shadow Strike, so that's a really good thing. Oops, sorry. So boom, they will mimic Shadow Strike, right? And then any other skill you use as well will be mimicked by this clone. So let's, for example, look at the Moonscar skill. Even when you use it, you're gonna get instant 7 stacks. So you can E into Moonscar immediately. So boom, then see it mimics that skill, and then you still have this whole duration over here, which you can do multiple skills. So for your burst phase, you can do something like this into Moonscar, then to like see all of these are mimicked. All of those are mimicked, right? All of those. It's insane amount of damage. Really, really beautiful skill. The only thing that this skill will not mimic are your basic attacks, right? And the other finisher over here. So you cannot mimic your level 45 finisher or level 1 finisher. So boom, if I do a finisher, they are like, nah, we are not doing that with you. We don't know that skill. They do not know that one. They cannot mimic that one. They cannot also mimic the level 1 finisher. So let's put it here. So the level 1 finisher will also not be mimicked. So boom. Yeah, they are like, yeah, no, you're using that the wrong way. They do not mimic that. A little bit sad that they don't. Probably would have been a little bit too broken, but yeah, this awakening is insanely good. Insanely good. You're gonna be using it. It's probably one of the awakenings where you actually you have to give up your level 45 one if you need the level 1 finisher, and keep your level 61. You don't really want the level 45 one. The level 61 is just really good. And that is the end of the showcase of all the skills. It's not really a very complicated class. It doesn't have a lot of things going for it. It's a little bit easier to pilot this class. So here I'm going to show you my setup. So this is how I have ended up with my setup. This setup is what I will be going for, and I'm going to explain to you why I have it the way it is. Not any of this is interchangeable except the 1 slot and the 2 slots. These ones you can put them anyhow you want, but I'm gonna explain why I have these 3 skills here, especially the invisibility, the Shadow Strike, and the Moonscar, because those are your 3 bread and butter skills for this class. So this is how my hotkey look. If you wanna copy it, pause the video, and then you can copy my degenerate gameplay over here. So let's talk about the rotation. So this is the big one here. Let's talk about the rotation. So Specter has a very simple rule. Stack 7 stacks, right? And then use your Moonscar, right? And then 7 stacks again, right? And then Moonscar. No, since you can't do, once you have 7 stacks, the Moonscar is still on cooldown. You want to spam your Shadow Strike even more to get it off cooldown. So you're gonna do 4 instead of 3. So you see 3 there. You do have a couple of seconds there. However, I believe that is because I do have very low CDR. I do have very low CDR over here. Where is it? I have 97. So with higher CDR, like with around 200 or so, you need to cast only 3, right? You need to cast 1, 2, 3, then you Moonscar, and then you do 1, 2, 3, and then you see that remaining cooldown there. With enough CDR, you should have your Moonscar immediately. Then you're gonna cast it, and then rinse and repeat. Stacking again to 7. Then Moonscar. Boom, and then Moonscar. That is the main rotation, to be honest. That is the main rotation. Every other skill you are spending, for example, your C, the other big C, this, to be honest, I feel a skill. You do those when they are off cooldown, right? You do those when they are off cooldown. So don't confuse yourself that much. You don't have a rotation for these skills here. These 4 skills here. Or there's 5 skills actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They don't have a rotation. You're using them when they're off cooldown, because you can just press them quickly. So boom, you can do like quick, try and get like quick stacks. Then now you are doing your, oops, I need to lock the target. You're doing your Shadow Strike, Moonscar, then maybe do your CC, and then now Shadow Strike again, Moonscar, and then you are stuck in the loop of Shadow Strikes. Shadow Strike into Moonscar, Shadow Strike into Moonscar. That's all you are doing. And don't press Moonscar if you don't have 7 stacks, because you do lose a lot of damage. And then once your Q is off cooldown or C, press it once and then just continue with your Shadow Strike. That is it's a very easy rotation, very easy rotation. You're just like really looking forward to these two. Now, as well, you can like do a little bit more crazy things using your big ultimate. So you can like start as an opener, which kind of cheats the DPS meter a little bit, because you can start with a lot of damage. You can start with a lot of damage. All of those are mimicked. So when you're using like this as an opener, like to cheat the DPS meters a little bit at the start of a fight, you can just do quick into see how those are like all mimicked. And then you do a Shadow Strike, then you do another Moon Scatter. And then now everything's off cooldown. Now you're doing your Moon Scar into Shadow Strike. Okay, so the rotation is not that complicated. It's two skills and then fillers of everything else, because this is the 2 things you're like really caring about. So yeah, that's about it. It's a very easy rotation to showcase, and nothing major on the class that I know of, unless we start finding out some crazy things that we can do with the class. Now let me quickly showcase the aero combat I was talking about. Let's take Queen here, for example. Now, in order to do aero combat extremely well with Specter, you will have to input dashes, right, and your Shadow Strike in the middle of your skills. So, for example, my C and Q are combo skill, right? Like they have a cast and then a follow up. So for those kind of combo skills, if you try and do them when you're in the air, there's a very high chance you're gonna get grounded. Right, it kind of grounds you for some reason, I don't know why. However, you can cancel it with a dash or cancel it with your Shadow Strike. So when you're up here and then you do Q, then you press 1 for Shadow Strike and you're not gonna go down, right? So, and then you're just spamming your Shadow Strike. Shadow Strike doesn't like ground you at all. So I can do the Q thing again. So boom. Oh, sorry. So you can do the Q, which is this. This one also sometimes grounds you for some reason, I don't know why. However, if you do cancel it with Shadow Strike, it doesn't ground you. I want to use this one. So Q, boom, and then Shadow Strike, and then put even a dash in the middle. Shadow Strike, Moonscar is okay. C is okay. This one will always ground you unless you want to cancel the last hit. So yeah, that is something to get used to. Just know that these 2 skills over here are combo skills. You kind of wanna do a second input in between, like a dash or your Shadow Strike, to cancel the second animation of these 2 skills. Otherwise it's gonna ground you. So it's something to just keep an eye on and kind of get used to it. It's more of a feeling. Once you get used to it, it starts becoming a little bit easier and more of a muscle memory kind of a thing. So yeah, that's just a little bit what I want to talk about when it comes to his aero combat. It's not really that easy like the Mirage. Mirage is super easy to do aero combat. On Specter, there's a little bit things going for it. So let's go through his gear set. Let's go through his gear sets. Now, this is one of the classes where I don't like the class set, so I'm going to show you what the class set does. So yeah, 2-piece set effect. So the 2-piece set effect, you do get this blade buff here that after casting Shadow Strike, 4% skill damage. That stacks up to 3 times, so a 12% skill damage. You are doing your Shadow Strike every time. So the Ethereal Blade buff here, it's 100% uptime on this one, because this is your bread and butter skill. That's all they mean, the Shadow Strike skill, your bread and butter skill. So that buff will be 100% uptime on that buff. And then you do have your 4-piece set effect here, so skill damage plus 4% basically. And then Specter 1000 shadows level plus 1%, that is the level 60 awakening skill. And then you do have flow state, so after casting a combo skill, gain 2% damage bonus, stacking for 7 times, that lasts for 15 seconds. That's a total of 14% damage bonus. So combo skills are this 4 skills over here. I'm gonna put this one here like this. So these are your four combo skills. So if you cast out just one of them, you're gonna notice you get your flow stack over here. Now, in order to get these stacks correctly when you're using the Destiny class buff, you want to be detonating these skills yourself. So for example, Q is supposed to give you 2 stacks. However, if you let it explode on its own, you're going to notice you're only getting 1 stack of flow over here, right? However, when you cast it twice, so Q and then Q, you're going to get 2 stacks instead of 1. So you're kind of forced to do the explosion yourself if you want all the stacks. But that is the maximum you can get, 14%. And then it has a low uptime because in 7 seconds it's gonna disappear and everything is still on cooldown. For these 4 skills have a kind of a long cooldown. So there is downtime on that buff, pretty long downtime actually to get the entire buff all over again. Unless you want to stagger it just for a little bit more duration, but a less damage bonus buff, because you can stagger it and then like reset the duration from time to time, right? So, like that. But you do lose, you don't get a lot of it. And then you'll have to like really pay attention to the buff if you want to like reset it from time to time. It's just something, it's a little bit more stressful to do, but yeah, that is that. But I don't really use this set at all. I'll explain to that in a little bit. So let's look at the 5-piece set effect. So the 5-piece set effect gives you 6% crit damage, which is a little bit and then shadow dominance. After casting 1000 shadows, you get 5% additional damage, 15% crit damage, and 20 plus elemental enhance. This is a very good buff until you figure out that you only get this buff on your level 60 awakening cast time, right? So after casting 1000 shadows, 1000 shadows is this skill. 1000 shadows is your awakening skill, and awakening skill, the level 61, is on a 150-second cooldown. So the uptime on this buff is so low that it kind of defeats the purpose of having this entire 5-piece Destiny set. And then the buff itself, the crit damage, pretty good. The 20 elemental enhance, really good. However, the 5% additional damage is a really bad stat, because additional damage is not a multiplicative stat. It is an additive stat. And if you know about how damage multiplication works and stuff in the game, you know that additive is really inferior to multiplicative stats. So additional damage is really bad. I really hope it was just pure 5% damage increase instead of 5% additional damage. So this 5-piece side effect is completely underwhelming, is very underwhelming. And that is why I already looked at it and I was like, yeah, this is definitely not a not a set you want to be going for. So this 5-piece side effect is actually not really that good. It's not really that good. You're really just better off having your Calvary set. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. My recommendation for your gear set here is going to be Calvary's 3-piece. So you can have your helmet, you can have your boots, and you can have your that's Chariot. You can have your Calvary. Chariot does not work. Chariot is probably the worst extra set in the game. Everyone was talking about Chariot, but to be honest, people who build Chariot are kind of regretting building Chariot. It has a lot of cons to it, and not enough pros. So I'm not even going to consider the Chariot set. So you either do Calvary, or if you want to do your Destiny set. Everyone's gonna start with the Destiny set anyway. So yeah, but you want to go. The Calvary one is like really good on Specter. So let's go to accessories. I did skip this over for Mirage, so I'm not gonna do the same mistake again. So the accessory set are insane. I love his class set. So let's start with the 2-piece set effect. So 2-piece set effect, Shadow's Embrace. Concealing Mist preset duration is increased by 5 seconds, and you get a 10% damage bonus during pre-stealth. This buff is 100% uptime. So that means when you press 1, which is on my Concealing Mist, so pressing just 1, you're gonna be getting this buff. So you get 10% damage bonus for this entire duration of the stealth prep. Stealth prep lasts even when you have done your three stealth hits. So that's first one, stealth, second one, stealth, third one. I can't go on stealth again, but I still have the buff. However, I have to recast it because the cooldown is over. So cast it again. Let's quickly do this. Okay, now I can't go stealth again. You see, I can't go stealth again. Even if I dash, I don't know how many times I dash, it doesn't really matter. However, I still have the full buff there. I still have the movement speed, and I still have the 10% damage bonus. Really beautiful 2-piece set effect when it comes to accessories. Let's talk about the 4-piece set effect. The 3-piece set effect. 3-piece set effect, Shadow Ambush. Concealing Mist cooldown minus 5 seconds. Okay, so it reduces the cooldown of the invisibility even more. And then Stealth Break attacks deal 100% more damage. Now this one is insane. You remember when I was talking about the rotation, I didn't mention anything about the stealth attacks because I was kind of saving it for this moment. When you have your 3-piece accessory side effect, since you are doing your Shadow Strike into Moonscar all the time as your bread and butter, Moonscar will always use the stealth damage bonus from stealth on its multiplier, right? That one will be a stealth attack on Moonscar. When you have stealth prep, instead of dashing, you can use Shadow Strike, and Shadow Strike is gonna put you into stealth. So Shadow Strike, and you're in stealth. Do your basic attacks. It's not gonna break stealth, right? You guys see that? So you can do Concealing Mist and then Shadow Strike. When you're at 7 stacks, you're in stealth, and then you can do your Moonscar. And then Moonscar will use this huge multiplier over here. Let me show you. Huge 100% damage will be applying on your Moonscar, which is super good. The accessory effects are insanely good. Let's go to the 5-piece side effect. 5-piece side effect, you get a flat skill damage bonus 10%, and then Flowing Form. During pre-stealth again, it's buffing stealth. During pre-stealth, every 2 seconds, reduce all skill cooldowns by 0.5%. They are even giving you more skill cooldowns. Free to play heaven. Now this is how that works. In order to showcase that, let me do you a solid and increase the UI again for those people who have no eyes. Okay, oof, it's too big. I am gonna put the 4 skills here on cooldown, and then I want you to focus on the cooldown ring around it once we enter stealth. Not even enter stealth, once we cast our Concealing Mist. So let's quickly put all of these 4 skills on cooldown here. So QQ, even ultimates, both of them. Right now we enter stealth, we enter pre-stealth, and then you're gonna notice they have like a little bit of a tick. You see that big tick there? Big tick, big tick. So that is being reduced just for being in crystal state. If you have your 5-piece accessory set effect, a really beautiful set effect, you're gonna have cooldowns just all over the place going. That's how it makes the class be a little bit more smoother to pilot. So yeah, that is the 5. I love the 5-piece set effect when it comes to accessory. It's probably a must-have on the class. It's really good. The armor one, very underwhelming. But when it comes to the accessories, this is really good, and you really want to have your 5-piece set effect. Even 3-piece is very decent, but 5-piece is also extremely good if you want the cooldowns there. And the skill damage plus 10% is also really good, because that also buffs your shadow strike. Right? So this is my so right now the way it is, this is probably my best recommendation for the build. 3-piece cavalry, getting your helmet, your chest piece, and your boots, and then your 5-piece accessory set. I still don't know how the Farmine sets effects work really, so I cannot really talk about that yet, but this is a very good start to this is a good place to start when you're building your Specter. So yeah, when it comes to circuit, it is pretty easy. Your normal attack circuits here. When you're looking for your time circuits, it's crit rate if you do not have a lot of crit, and then crit damage will be the second one the moment you start getting a lot of crit damage. When it goes to your sub attributes, you're just looking for whatever element you've decided to build. Since Assassin is a neutral damage class, you're going to choose whatever element you want and then stick to it, and then stack that one element. He doesn't need to build a lot of CDR, because you do get a lot of that in his own class passive and all that. So it is crit damage, crit rate, and then crit damage for that. You don't really need attack speed that much. Attack speed it's okay the way he is, and you don't need like CDR. So when it comes to your epic here, you're gonna choose one. You're gonna choose one element here. I decided to go for electro here, so you can put electro in all of that, and then attack for the remaining ones. When it goes to your outfit, you have your outfit insignias here. I do not have them in the test server, but when you get the outfit, the insignia boxes for the outfit, you should choose your Moonscar. If you get it there, choose your Moonscar and then stack it all. If we do not have Moonscar, then you're probably going to be taking the Shadow Strike. But I do believe Moonscar will be there, so stack 6 of them and put them in your outfit. When it comes to Insignias, it's very same with like basically almost all classes. For weapon, you want to choose whatever element you're running. So if you want to go electro, maybe mechanical go. If you want to go prior, you put that, because he's neutral, so you can do whatever you want here. And you are kind of forced to have one of these, because all of his damage is neutral. There's no way to convert that unless you use an insignia, or always use a food buff. But I feel like insignia is just a really easy way of doing this. Food buff just will give you just an extra damage. So yeah, choose whatever element you want here. And then for helmet, Claudius is the best in slot there. If you do not have Claudius, you should just go for Andre. It's a really nice cheap one to build. For breastplate, go Claudius again. You can do Ophelia if you want elemental damage, but not really. The cooldown rate, you don't need that much cooldown rate, so just go for Claudius here to get even more crit damage. So that will give you better damage. If you do not have access to the yellow ones, you want to go for Tower Shield for skill damage. This also boosts your Shadow Strike basic attacks and stuff, because it is considered skill damage, not basic attack damage, so keep that in mind. And then for your pants, it's Goramos. There's no other option here. This is just best in slot there. For your gloves, Mirandia, if you can afford it. Just level 1 of Mirandia is pretty strong. If you can't get Mirandia there, then you want to go for something like Asian Charm for more attack speed and some cooldown rate. There's no other cheaper option. On your boots, you want to go for another Mirandia if you can afford it, but if you can't, you can do Electro Whip if you're building Electro, and then Joker for Umbro damage. If not that, you can do Asian. If you're not building any of those two, you can go for another extra Asian Guardian there. Here, of course, on the gloves, of course, if you're not doing if you're doing cryo on prior, you're gonna find them on the gloves. And then down here to the necklace, yeah, of course, you go for the elemental one if you need Joker on electrical here. If not, do more crit damage or crit chance if you do need crit chance here. For bracers, it is the same thing. Crit damage if you need crit damage, crit chance if you need crit chance, and then prior or cryo if you need the element to enhance, depending on what you have decided on your weapon. For ring, just go Andre. There's no other option here. Canos is not really that good, so just do your Angre insignia there. For seal, Azil, if you can afford it. This is really expensive, but if you can't, we have Gorambos here, which is pretty good. Just get Gorambos and make sure you max it out to level 3. And then talisman, just do tower shield if you cannot afford Azil. Azil is super expensive, so do it tower shield for extra skill damage. And that is that for your Insignias. So I do believe I've covered a little bit more. So I do believe I've covered everything I know about the Specter as of now. So far, I am liking Mirage a little bit more. I just really enjoy the stealth of Specter and the ease of rotation as well. So to be honest, I am very torn between these two classes. I am just gonna do a couple of content in them, and then I'm gonna decide eventually, but I'm thinking I'm going to be swapping to one of these two classes. I don't know which one yet, but very, very high chance I will be swapping to one of these two classes. So thanks guys for watching this guide. I guess I'll see you guys on the next one. Like and subscribe if you found this a little bit helpful to you, and I guess I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.